here's the basic question I want to answer with you guys today. What is this fall actually for? Right? And what I want to challenge you to do, because I was that girl. So before you jump into making another plan or just letting the calendar fill up, right, with all the things, what if we actually pause to discern what God is actually asking you to steward and what is not necessarily from Him? This is a conversation that I had in some coaching calls this week, was that sometimes there are a lot of things on our calendars, on our to-do lists, and the first question we always have to ask is this even mine to do? Right? Who put this on my list? Is this something that the Lord has called me to do and is in alignment with where He's leading me and the things He's given me to steward in this season? Or is this what somebody else thinks I should do? Or maybe what I think I should do, right? So before fall fills up, I want to ask you this very simple question. Sorry, you're going to hear trucks and cars going back and forth. That's what we get when we go outside, right? But that's it. That's us in the wild. And I'm going to talk about being in the wild in just a minute, because in the wild is real life. So many people teach planning from a place of like, yeah, it sounds picture perfect, but it doesn't work in real life. So whenever we're talking, I want it to work in the wild. So you're going to hear maybe some wildlife, some vehicles. This is just my in the wild today. Okay. So here's a question that I want us to keep coming back to today. What is this fall for? Now, I don't mean for everybody on the planet. I don't even mean for all the people in your home, but really when you think about what is this fall for you, not just what's on your calendar or what do the kids have going on or what needs to happen at work or in my business or where I'm traveling or what I need to get done before the holidays. We all know as soon as fall hits, the holidays feel like they whoosh upon us. Yes, those questions matter, but I don't think they're the first question, right? But what happens? We are capable, responsible women. We're good at jumping straight into planning. Who is with me? Who's a planner, right? Who pulls out the calendar? Who adds the dates? Who makes the list? And who's the one who figures out how everything is going to fit in, right? We've got all the stuff we're holding in our heads. I call it the juggling game. We talked about this on a live we did on Thursday. We're trying to figure out how everything is going to fit. Is anyone feeling that way as you are looking towards fall? How am I going to make it all fit? And so, yes, you can make a very organized plan, but oftentimes it's before we even stop to ask whether everything on our plan even belongs. And so that's what I wanted to interrupt this morning, because of the fact, I'm so glad that resonates with you, Jen, because of the fact that this has come up in several conversations with women this week. Here's the thing. Biblical stewardship doesn't begin with how much can I accomplish with my time, right? Or how much can I fit in? It begins with, Lord, what have you entrusted to me? And then from there, we can ask, okay, now what does faithfulness with that look like in this season? That's a very different question, right? Because if you're like me and you've consumed all the time management stuff out there, the world is always teaching us how to optimize our time, how to maximize it, how to manage it, how to hack it, how to squeeze more out of our day, how to find time, right? 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But if we truly believe that our days belong to God, then our goal isn't just to squeeze everything in that I possibly can, right? It becomes this now responsibility to faithfully steward what He has placed in our hands, what He has put into this season. And you know what? That requires a lot of discernment, right? That means I have to pause to discern before I just drop everything in the plan. And here's what I know. Tell me in the chat if you find this to be true. Fall tends to fill itself. Anyone? Right? Drop fall or fill in the chat. How many of you find that if you don't decide what belongs before the pace picks up, then you're just trying to juggle all the things that just keep coming at you? And maybe they are things that in another season we've intentionally chosen. Maybe they are things that somebody else is trying to intentionally get us to choose, right? But fall tends to fill itself up. And if we're not careful, it just feels like it's just this, like I said, this, quick rush to the holidays. And all of a sudden we're at the end of another year saying, oh my goodness, where did the time go? I can't believe it's another new year, right? I said, this is what mattered. And why haven't I seen any movement on that? So for those of you who are on live or if you're watching a replay, before we go any further, I want you to think about where you are right now. Okay. Where are you right now? I'm going to give you a scale of how about 1 to 4. 1, you're like ready, bring on the routine, right? You're like, okay, yes, I love a good routine. Or maybe 2, you're excited. There's something that you're ready to move forward with. You've been maybe waiting all summer because it hasn't been time for it, and now it's time for it. Maybe 3, you're feeling full. I'm already wondering how in the world everything's going to fit in, and that thing that I really would love to do, I don't even know how it's going to happen. Or maybe you're feeling 4, like uncertain. I'm not really sure what this season holds. So maybe instead of the scales, as I talked it out, sorry, you guys are getting me like, as I'm talking things out in real time, let's go with the words. Are you ready for fall? Are you excited for fall? Are you feeling full already about fall? Or are you a little uncertain? I think it's really important for us to pause and notice that. So I encourage you, drop which word, ready, excited, full, uncertain. Drop that in the chat. And think about how all of us here are entering a different season. Okay. Yes, Jen is feeling full. I bet there are other people here that are feeling full, right? And I bet some people could say, wow, I'm really excited about some things. And other people can say, I'm really uncertain. And maybe you feel like, Lissa, I'm kind of a little bit of all the above. Can I get any all the above amens? Right? Like, yeah, sometimes it's a whole like mix of all these different things that I'm feeling as I head into a new season. And that's not a bad thing. Okay. We're all entering into fall, and yet we're all entering, like, fall is a different season for each one of us. Because, say, for example, I was talking with my daughter yesterday and I said, hey, this is the first fall that no child is going back to school. She just graduated from nursing school. She's starting her job next week. She's moved. She's married, all these things, right? So my fall this year looks a little bit different because I have no kids going back to school, right? So maybe you do have kids or grandkids going back into school. Or maybe you do a lot of ministry things and summer was kind of that break, and then now things are picking back up. Or maybe you've, just been focusing on family during the summer, and now that people are kind of back into rhythms and routines, you're ready to move that project with work or a business forward, right? So maybe you're entering a different season, just based on what things are happening in your life circumstance. But maybe also here, one of the things we talk about is as we really understand the purpose of time, it's what shapes us, right? It's what transforms us over time as we walk through season after season after season. And so maybe you're entering this fall as a different person than you were last fall, right? And so often, like I, in a personal situation, am in a very different place walking into fall this year than I was last year. And if I wasn't taking the time to stop and notice that and acknowledge that and make that then be at the forefront as I'm praying through what this fall looks like, then I'm going to expect that this fall is going to look and feel the same as every other fall in the past has, or everybody else around me, right? So here's where I want to give you permission to say, you know what, this is the season of fall that I'm in, right? Which means there isn't just one perfect fall routine that I can hand all of you. I never do that. I never say, here's the carbon copy. Everybody's day should look like this. Everybody's week should look like this, because it's going to be based on discerning the actual season that you've been given. Okay, so faithfulness doesn't look the same in every season. And as I've been diving into scripture, I'm always looking for references to time. And what does it tell us about the author of time? What does it tell us about time itself? And what does it tell us about how we are to walk in the context of time? And one of the verses that keeps popping up, and I'm sure you're very familiar with it, is in Ecclesiastes, right? Where it says there's a time for everything, Ecclesiastes 3, and a season for every activity under the heavens. And it goes on to list some different seasons. And I just find it very, very interesting, right? Solomon was just observing things around him. And so, we see seasons in nature, and so many of us are ready for a different season weather-wise when we come into this, but there are seasons of life as well. And if you haven't read Ecclesiastes 3 lately, I encourage you, go read through it as you're thinking about discerning what this fall season is for, right? And thinking about, okay, what is this season for in my life? Because if we don't do that, we often expect our faithfulness is supposed to look the same in every season. Like my capacity is going to be the same. My commitments are going to be the same. I'm going to have the same routines or the same output. But hello, in the wild, life changes. There are seasons when family requires more, or seasons when your work or ministry requires more, or seasons that you're building or trying to swat a fly out of your face because you're sitting outside, or you're healing or serving or maybe simplifying. I know some of my clients are like, right now, this is a season of purging. I need to get rid of some clutter and stuff in my life, in my, in my spaces, and also in my head and heart, right? Maybe this is a season of stepping forward for you. Maybe it's a season of waiting. I have a client that we've been having this conversation. Her word this year is wait. And so how does she wait well through the different seasons of this year and what it is that she's waiting in the Lord for. And so I think sometimes what happens is we try to enter a new season using a rhythm that belonged to an old one, right? Or we think that we have to carry something forward into a next season simply because we haven't stopped long enough to ask, is this mine to carry? Or is this still mine to carry, right? Two different questions, really important. And that's what stewardship is about. Because maybe it is. Maybe it is something that you've been carrying, through the summer and you're supposed to carry it into fall. And maybe it's supposed to look exactly the same. Or maybe it is, but the way in which you carry it needs to change. Or maybe God has put something entirely new in your hands. And so now you've got something new that you're making time for. Or maybe something is complete. And so, okay, I got to that point where it was supposed to get to. And now, right, this can go to a side. So now I can focus on something else. But we won't ever know that unless we stop long enough to pay attention. Sometimes what looks like a time management problem is actually an unmade stewardship decision. Ooh, can I say it again? Sometimes what looks like a time management problem is actually an unmade stewardship decision, right? When you're going, Lisa, how am I going to fit it all in? That's a time management problem, right? And so, of course, we look to the time blocks and we look to the productivity hacks and we look to all the things that are going to help us to get more out of our time. But what would happen if you actually step back and said, okay, wait, is this even mine to carry in this season? That's stewardship, right? And taking time to pause before we just get into, I have to pick up the pace to fit this in and to go at God's pace. My clients and I are reading a book called God Walk. And this morning I was reading a chapter about how walking helps us to pay attention when we're going at a pace that we can actually notice things. And talking about, like, there's scripture that says, see, I'm doing a new thing in Isaiah, right? Do you not perceive it? Wow. And that really hit me, like, to perceive something, I have to be going at God's pace to even notice, right? And so what we want to do is kind of like, how do we push pause before the pace of fall picks up? And how do we actually start discerning what is mine to steward versus treating everything like a time management problem? Do you think that that might change things for you as you think about how you're stepping into fall? Okay, let's think about this, okay? Think about this fall, right, and what you're entering. I want you to think about, is there something changing? And I'm encourage you, if you want to drop a word in the chat, you're more than welcome to, because I always love interaction where you're actually thinking and making some decisions. So maybe something around your work is changing. Maybe something around your family is changing. Maybe something around your health or a ministry or your home or travel or a relationship or a schedule. If you want to share, you're always welcome to, but I never say you have to. What is something that is changing as you are stepping into this next season? And then I want you to think about, does the way I'm currently living account for what's changing? Because what do? We tend to think I have to go into this next season and make it look like the season before, or like last time it was fall, or like everybody else's fall looks like. But when we step back from a stewardship perspective, then we can actually say, am I actually living in the wild, right? So that's the in real life things. You're going to hear me talking about Tuesday at 10 a.m. moments. That's what I mean by in the wild. Okay. You know how when you have this plan for the week and it's all laid out and it looks beautiful and maybe it's even color coded or, super neatly organized in your planner and you feel really good, right? And Monday goes okay. And you're like, all right, not so bad. And then Tuesday at 10 a.m. happens. Now, just so you know, it doesn't have to be on Tuesday at 10 a.m., but right, the moment when it feels like all your plans are going out the window. I got one of those messages last week from one of my clients. She's like, Lisa, this is what I thought. This is my plan for what was going to be happening this week. And this specifically this day, which is really important. And here's what just happened. So much for my plans. And I went, wait, here's an in the wild. Here's a Tuesday at 10 a.m. moment. It was actually Wednesday at like 8 a.m. But again, right? So are you currently accounting for the things that are going on in life? And that does not mean we go, well, I'm just not going to plan because I can't control everything. You're right. We can't. But a faithful steward is going to be intentional with this gift of time that she's been entrusted. Okay, so we're not going to solve everything right now. I just want you to notice, does the way I'm currently living account for something that's changing as I step into this season? And this is exactly why on Tuesday, we're going to be doing the Fall Stewardship Circle Retreat. We are going to push pause before the pace picks up. Yes, maybe kids went back to school where you are here. They went back this week. I know I have friends whose kids are going back next week. So maybe you don't feel like it's full on fall yet, which is exactly the time to push pause, because we all know what happens after Labor Day, right? September. Okay. Right. Then again, everything starts picking back up and filling up. And before you know it, the holidays are here and it's a new year. And you're like, what just happened? Where did the time go? Right. So if you're already joining me on Tuesday, give me your favorite fall emoji in the chat. If you are a annual Stewardship Circle subscriber, then you get a ticket. Right. Now, here's the thing. We're going to be coming together this next Tuesday. What is that? August 18th. This is not going to be just another 90 minutes where I give you more information about how you should be better with your time to consume, right? I guarantee you are not here because you want to hear you should get better at managing your time. Good news. I will never tell you that because I actually think that that is the problem, right? When we try to manage our time, we actually don't fix the problem. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it. We're going to actually fix the problem. Okay. And so on Tuesday, we're going to make some timely decisions in real time. How many times do you say, oh, I need to think about that. Oh, I need to do that. But then we don't do it because there isn't time. So I'm intentionally creating a block of 90 minutes on Tuesday at the Fall Stewardship Circle Retreat. We're going to push pause and we're going to ask these questions like we're talking about today, right? I'm going to walk you through a process called the Seasonal Stewardship Reset. And there are 4 movements inside the Seasonal Stewardship Reset. If you like alliteration, you're going to love this. And somebody was laughing the other day. She's like, I love alliterations. I'm like, me too. It makes my brain remember. So I decided, okay, let's make them all D's. Okay. So the 4 things we're going to do on Tuesday when we come together. Number 1, we're going to decompress. Before we rush forward, we're just going to pay attention to where we are and where we just came from. Hello, right? Instead of just jumping right into what's next without noticing what's actually going on and what's been going on. Then we're going to discern. This is what we're talking about today. What has God actually entrusted to me in this season? And I have some very specific questions and ways we're going to do that. Then we're not going to decide. We're actually going to go through your fall yes filter to figure out what deserves my yes. And then it's not good enough to just say, okay, well, Lissa, I decided, this is something that really deserves my yes as I step in this next season. Then we're going to end by designing. How do I give this thing that matters, this thing that I know that it's time for, and I know that this is mine to steward in this season, a place to live in my actual life, in the wild, right? On a Tuesday at 10 a.m., on a regular Saturday, right? Notice the order. The designing, AKA the planning, was the last thing on the list, not the first. But so often, as we start off this live, that's where we jump in. We jump into, let me just make the plan. But here's the problem. I don't want you to organize and color code and beautify commitments that you were never supposed to carry. Okay? Who already feels lighter? Like, oh, okay, just because it's on my plate or just because it's even on my list or even on my calendar already doesn't mean that it has to stay. Like, that's a breath of fresh air. I don't know about you, right? And I don't want to help you become more efficient at being overcommitted. Who here is an overcommitter? Who here is like, I often do things without really thinking about what that yes just said to everything else. And then I'm regretting the fact that I said yes or resenting that yes or whatever it is. And I'm definitely not going to give you a worldly goal setting exercise and then slap a Bible verse on it and be like, okay, this is stewardship, because it's not, right? We're going to decompress before we discern. We're going to discern before we decide. And then we're going to decide before we design. And Tuesday, I'm going to lead you through all 4 of those. So if you are already an annual member of the Stewardship Circle, yay, you get to join me on Tuesday. If you're not yet, then all you have to do is upgrade, and then you can come with us, right? This 90-minute session has the potential to change everything, not only about the season you're about to walk in, but also about the next season and the next season and the next season, right? Because I'm going to walk you through some really specific tools inside the Seasonal Stewardship Reset that are going to help us do that. So when we are discerning, we are going to do a seasonal shift scan, okay? Because the fall that you're entering may require something very different from the season that you just left, right? The summer that you just had. Or it may require something very different even from the last fall time that you walked into fall. So we're going to slow down long enough to notice those shifts instead of just automatically saying, well, this just has to happen because, well, fill in the blank. It's what I've always done. It's what is expected of me. It's what I feel like I should, right? We're going to actually use the seasonal shift scan to say, okay, wait, let's pause first. And let's just pay attention to actually what is the season I'm walking into and how are things maybe the same or different or new as I walk into a new season. Would that make a difference instead of just treating fall like you think you should treat fall and expecting a different result? right? Doing the same thing. I had this conversation. I love getting to talk with women all week long because it gives me so many great things to talk about when I come on and do a live or I create a podcast or whatever. So we were having this conversation and, it was so interesting because so often, now I lost my train of thought. Hold on. I don't even know where I was going. Okay. Anyway, let me just go on, right? And so we're not just going to do it because it's on our list. Asking why is it on my list? Maybe that was the conversation. But okay, I shouldn't have tried to explain why I was telling you the story and just told you the story. But now it just left my brain. Maybe I'll think of it as we're still on. Okay, so that's the first tool we're going to use. Then I'm going to walk you through the fall yes filter. Who would love to have a filter that every single time an opportunity, an idea, something, whether it pops up in your head, whether somebody messages you, whether somebody asks you, you could run it through this filter before you say yes. Hello, if we could actually slow down our yeses and be discerning about them before we just give them or pass them up, I think we would see a whole lot of things change, right? Because here's what I want you to know, as we're going to be using the fall yes filter, something can be good and still not belong in this season for you. Right? And I'm actually going to walk you through. I actually got an opportunity / invitation this past week. And I didn't say no immediately. I said, I'm curious, right? So I'm gathering some information right now. And I'm going to walk you guys on Tuesday exactly through the fall yes filter of how I am filtering this opportunity, because I literally in real time right now, 10:08 a.m. on Saturday morning, I have not made a decision. I have not given a yes. I have not given a no. I'm pausing to pay attention to the season I'm in before I do that and running it through the fall yes filter. And so I thought, wouldn't that be great if I do that in real time with you guys as an example of how to use the fall yes filter? Because guaranteed, you have ideas, you have opportunities, you have invitations, you maybe even already have commitments or things on your to-do list. It doesn't matter if it's just new coming in or if it's already there and it's been there. When you have a fall yes filter, then we can go, does this even belong here and belong here right now? Right. And so as I've been really working on this, I thought, you know what, just because this thing that came to me this week is a good opportunity doesn't automatically require my yes. And even though it's something that yes does need to be done and it does matter, it doesn't always mean it's mine to be the person to carry that. Right. And even if it was, it doesn't even mean that it's mine right now to do that. Right. So here's where the wisdom, here's where the slowing down, here's where the discernment comes in. Because there's wisdom in timing. There's wisdom in seeking the Lord about these things, right? There's wisdom in saying, is this wise or unwise? Everything that I teach comes from Ephesians 5:15-16. Well, I mean, that's the basis, right? We look at all of Scripture, which says, look carefully how you live. In other words, pay attention, not as unwise, but as wise. So that means we're going to have some opportunities to make wise decisions, and there'll be some opportunities to make unwise decisions. Are you discerning the difference? And then it goes on to say, once you discern the difference, that's how we redeem the time. In other words, make the best use of the time, which does not mean, how do I fit more into my 24 hours? And, slap a Jesus sticker on it and call it Christian time management. It really means, like, if I truly know what's been entrusted to me, what it's the season for, now I'm making the most of the 24 hours God gave me today to move that thing forward. And here's what I want to say. Being careful, looking carefully does not mean being fearful. It's just wisdom. It means you're being intentional. And so on Tuesday, when we do the Fall Stewardship Circle Retreat, instead of just talking about it, I'm actually going to give you space and a field guide, right? And in the wild field guide, to actually make some decisions, to actually run things through that filter, right? So that you can discern. So once we've decompressed, once we've discerned, then we're going to walk through, okay, how do we start designing our fall? And the first thing we're going to do is a fall reality scan. Because again, if we just say, okay, here's where it all goes, and we're not really paying attention to the real life we live in, the in the wild moments that you're having, then it's a perfect storm for everything to feel like it's one big, jumbled mess. And you're running around saying, I don't have enough time. What am I going to do? Because here's the thing. Who here has real life? Family, work, ministry, travel, holidays, whether you're hosting or traveling or, serving or whatever. There are people who need you. You need to take care of yourself as well to keep doing what you're doing. And guess what? No matter how much planning we do, even from a place of stewardship where we pause first, there are things we can't predict, right? There will be things you can't predict. So our plan has to fit the life that God's actually entrusted to us and leave space for those moments, right? And that's why we always will design for the wild, because whatever we design on Tuesday eventually has to survive a Tuesday at 10 a.m., right? AKA real life. So we have to create margin and space and have something to return to, instead of like that client I was talking about earlier this week. Her first response was, so much for planning, right? She was throwing her plans out the window. But instead, we came back to a stewardship thing and said, okay, now that you know this information, which you didn't know on Sunday when you planned for today, this is a Wednesday, what things do matter? What things do matter today? And then how do we return to what it's time for versus saying, well, so much for my plans. Like, that's real life. This is how faithful planning meets real life, right? And this is why when we're come together on Tuesday, I'm not just going to explain these tools to you. We're actually going to do them. You're actually going to make your own stewardship decisions so that you are going into this fall in a whole different place. It's feeling so different. And one of the things that we're going to do when we're together is I want you to come away with something very clearly. You may still have a little bit that you're still sitting with the Lord on, but I want you to come away with, what is the one thing that I want to faithfully move forward this fall? And not just I want, right, that I sense the Lord leading me to faithfully move forward this fall. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, you could right now be like, Lissa, I have 10 things that I need to be faithfully moving forward this fall. And you would probably be right. But I'm going to help us narrow down to one thing. That doesn't mean that those other 9 things don't happen, but this one thing is going to get some focused attention, because there's something about it that this is really where I feel the Lord sensing me to steward it in this season. Okay? So it's not necessarily maybe even going to be the biggest, most impressive thing on your list. Your life may hold a whole lot of important things, but there may be one thing that God has placed in your hands that will continue getting pushed off into the back burner, right? It will be the can that keeps getting kicked down the road unless you intentionally give it a place to live. Maybe it's something you've been called to build. I work with women all the time who are running businesses, right? And so there's a piece of your business that you are needing to build, right? Maybe you are in a work environment, so it's a project that you're working on. Maybe it's in a ministry and you're building something out for that. Maybe it's something you're changing. Maybe it's something about a relationship or health or something that God keeps bringing back to your attention. So we're going to create enough quiet when we come together on Tuesday and space to discern that, and then design a place for it to live, right? Because this is how we're going to go into fall, number one, with a whole lot more wisdom and attention and intention, so that then the implementation can happen. And then we'll actually see, wow, I wasn't just, trying to keep up because I felt like everything was getting away from me. I actually can see not only the personal growth that happened over time, the growth in my relationship with the Lord, and also the growth in these things that God has entrusted to me. How would it feel to get to the end of, this season and be like, wow, I feel like that was faithful. I feel like it wasn't perfect, but I was faithfully stewarding what God had said it was time for and trusting Him to show me what that looks like, right? But it becomes this beautiful participation, right? It's not just, God, you figure it out. It's, okay, Lord, with the wisdom, experience, opportunities, resources like this that you're giving me, how can I be most intentional with this and leave space for you to direct and redirect as you go? But that means we have to stop and pause. We can't just crash land into a Monday. We certainly don't want to crash land into fall and say, well, I hope this fall feels different than last fall. Or I hope this thing gets to this point before we get to the holidays or the end of the year or whatever that is. So if you're listening today and you're like, okay, Lissa, I need a pause before my fall fills up, then I'm going to encourage you to join us on Tuesday. If you are already an annual subscriber, then yay, you're going to be sent the Zoom link and you get to come and join us on Tuesday. I've got a field guide that'll be going out in the next day or two to get you ready. And come, bring your calendar, your Bible, your field guide, and we're going to pause and go through these 4 Ds. Okay? If you're currently a free subscriber, all you have to do is upgrade to annual. It's only $97 for the year. So not only does that allow you to join us this month, but then every single month for the next year. Imagine if you actually had this kind of a pause with these kind of tools that's all grounded in what Scripture teaches, how your time and your seasons might feel different a year from now, right? And when you do that, you immediately get access to the Faithful Week framework, which is such a beautiful way to start going, okay, this is what I would love my week to look like. and actually work with the Lord on putting it down on paper. Okay. And here's what I want you to do. So those of you who are already annual members, you've already got access to this. You can go to the Stewardship Circle Hub and you can download it straight from there. You should have also been sent a DM, so you could download it straight from there. And if you can't find it either place, send me a DM, because I would love for this weekend you to pull out the Faithful Week framework and start working through it. Don't wait till Tuesday, right? Tuesday is when we're going to pull back and look at the whole season, but you're still living in the week, right? And so I want you to have a right now tool that's going to help things start shifting about the time in front of you. If you are not already an annual subscriber, then all you have to do is upgrade, and then you'll get the Faithful Week framework right away. I love how Substack makes it so easy to just like drop right in front of you, and you can start doing that and then join us on Tuesday. Okay, and let's start looking at the life we're actually living, not so we can perfect next week or the week after that or the week after that, but because we want to create some space to pay attention, to see what does the Lord say about our time? What does the Lord say about seasons? What is the Lord saying about this season in my life? Which is why we're going to open up our Bibles. We're going to open up our calendars, or maybe even your planner. Yes, there is a Redeem Her Time planner. So if you don't have it yet, you can head to redeemhertime.com/planner and grab it. I'll be linking that on Substack here shortly. But I wanted to work on this retreat first, and bring what you're noticing with you on Tuesday, right? So whether you work through the Faithful Week framework or whether you're just starting to think about this question we're talking about today, what is this fall for, right? Then we're going to zoom out to the season that we're about to enter for you. And we're going to start walking through these 4 Ds, right, with those tools that I just shared you, so that we can pay attention to the season we're about to enter before we just say, well, so much for fall, and now we're already into the next place, right? The holidays or whatever it is that comes after that for you. Okay, so on Tuesday, we're come ready to look at the season ahead, even if you already started fall, even if some of those obligations or commitments have already come back on your calendar and things have already started, it's okay. We can still push pause at any point, right? And pay attention. Look carefully and say, what's wise, what's unwise, and how do I make the most of my time? How do I redeem the 24 hours that God has given me, the 7 days, right, in a week that God has given me, the 30 to 31 days in a month, the 3 months in a season, and then, as we look like that, right? We're not going to leave on Tuesday with another notebook of good ideas or a to-do list of things we should do. Who has gone to a workshop and you walk away feeling like, oh my goodness, now I have so much more to do? I want you guys to know that everything we do inside the Stewardship Circle is to help you do the things that you're called to do. And it's not intended to add one more thing to your plate. What we actually do is we look at what's on your plate and we're like, what is supposed to be on this plate and what's not? And then how do I faithfully give my focus, time, and attention to the things that it is time for, right? This is what helps you do everything else, okay? And that's why I'm so excited that you guys are inside the Stewardship Circle, because this is the pause that we all need. This is what's going to help us do something with the time that we all get every day. Sure, we can keep chasing time management and hope that maybe one day it finally works for us, or we can just, keep crash landing into Mondays or Tuesdays or, a new season like fall, or we can push pause and actually go, wait, is there a whole different way? Is there a different way of doing this? Because I'm tired of banging my head against the same wall and hoping that it's going to look different. Okay, so on Tuesday, we're going to do that seasonal stewardship reset together. I'm going to walk you through the seasonal shift scan, the fall yes filter, that fall reality scan, and then how do we design this for the wild? And the goal is not more information. You're actually going to walk away with decisions. You're going to walk away with tools that not only are we going to use in real time, but that you can use anytime you need to come back to it. Right? Because we're going to learn, what does it look like to pause long enough to discern what is the season for? What deserves my yes? What's the one thing that I sense the Lord is calling me to faithfully move forward? And how can I just give that a place in the real life that God has entrusted to me? That's what we're going to be doing on Tuesday, right? And there's actually one more step beyond the retreat. Not one that we're doing today, don't worry, okay? But I want you to see the whole path, right? So on Tuesday, we're going to decompress. We're going to discern, we're going to decide, we're going to design, but then guess what comes after that? There's one more D. Do, right? Because what good is a plan on paper or even making decisions and writing them down going to do us unless we actually start taking one step after the next, right? Because knowing what matters and faithfully living it for the next 12 weeks, 12 months, 12 years, those are 2 very different things. Which is why I created something called Faithful Focus for women who want ongoing coaching, accountability, and implementation to take the one thing they've discerned in the life that they're living, in the season they're in, and keep faithfully moving it forward in the wild, right? So I'll tell you more about that on Tuesday, but for today, you don't have to figure out all of the next, the rest of the year. You simply need to decide whether it's time to create a pause, right? And if you feel like, yeah, it probably would be helpful if I actually paused before I jumped into fall or into whatever the rest of fall holds, then all you have to do is join us inside the stewardship circle. So upgrade to annual, and you'll get to come to the fall retreat. And this is where we're going to do the work, walking through these simple tools. Okay, so as you head into your weekend, I've got a fun back to school bash today. I'm not going back to school, but it's kind of the reason that we're doing to celebrate and coming together. I want you to pause with this one question. Okay, ready? So if you didn't hear anything else we talked about today, or you popped on at some point in the middle of this, right? We're going to pause on Tuesday. You're going to want to upgrade to annual subscribers so that you can join us on Tuesday. That one session will be worth your annual subscription. But guess what? We do this every month. So you are going to be in for a life-changing experience with your time. Okay, but today, right now, here's the question I want you to sit with you. And sorry, not sorry, if this is what keeps you up tonight or tomorrow night. Okay, sometimes women tell me like, Lisa, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Okay, maybe not a bad thing. Here's the question. Ready? Lord, what are you entrusting to me in this season, this fall? And I want to encourage you, don't rush to answer it. Don't turn it into another to-do list. Don't start already going, but I don't have time, right? Oh, no. We're just going to pay attention, right? What is it, Lord, that you are entrusting to me in this season? And then I want you to pay attention to the season that you're actually in and walking into. What's changing? Are there things that are carrying more weight right now? I think we don't often look at that, right? We just assume everything should feel the same and look the same. Are there things that you're just giving a yes to? Are there things that are getting crowded out? Are there things that kind of keep coming, like God keeps bringing back to your attention that you're like, wow, maybe this is something that I need to be paying more attention to? And if you don't know what this fall is for yet, it's okay. It's okay. That's why we're pausing. That's why we're on Tuesday going to create an intentional pause together to decompress and discern and decide and design and then do. Not so that we can be more productive women. And guys, I'm sure you run into the same thing, right? This is not about productivity. It's what I call purposivity, right? When I know the purpose of the time in front of me and I'm being intentional with what God has called me to move forward. That's how we become, look careful how we live, not as unwise, but as wise, and redeem the time, right? We're attentive. We make some intentional decisions, and then we faithfully steward it in the life that God has entrusted to us. So upgrade to annual member if you want to be able to join us, and then bring your Bible, bring your planner, bring your calendar, bring your real life, because we're not going to try to fit more into our fall. We are going to actually pause to decide what belongs this fall. And you know why we do all of this? It's something you're going to hear me say at the end of every podcast episode. You're going to see at the bottom of every article. The reason that we even do what we do and have these conversations here at Redeem Her Time is because of this. Because time is sacred. It's a gift from the God, right? And stewardship is strategic. This is how we are wise and faithful with what we do with it. So I can't wait to see you guys on Tuesday. Those of you who are already annual members, you will be getting information soon to make sure you have the Zoom link and the field guide. And if you haven't upgraded yet, to make sure you do that before Tuesday. We're going live, not right here on Substack, but on a different platform at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So you have until then to upgrade. But I have a feeling if those of you who haven't upgraded yet, you're going to want to, because as soon as you do, you are not only going to get invitation to Tuesday, but you are also going to get that faithful week framework. So you can start really looking at what does my week look like on paper in order to be faithful, not just productive, before I even hit Monday. All right. So have a fantastic weekend. I can't wait to see you guys on Tuesday and hear what the Lord's been laying on your heart.